In this video, I want to give you a little checklist that's sort of the hierarchy of things that you should be thinking about when you're working on your music. I'm really excited today to be sharing another sort of tool and little handout that I've made for you that can be really useful in your practicing to sort of know what to focus on and like give you exactly the specifics of what you want to get out of your music and what you need to get out of your practicing. If you want to actually download the little handout and printout that goes along with this checklist, then you can go to www.quickstartclarinet.com/practice checklist. Put in your email address there, and then I'll send it over in an email with the attachment of this actual checklist for you to follow along with, having your practice space as a little guide to always make sure that you're getting through the things that you need to be working on in your practice. Now, my goal with this little checklist or hierarchy of things is to help focus your practicing and give you sort of a plan when you're in your practice room. I know we've all like sat down to learn a piece and we just sort of look at the page and are like, this is really difficult, or I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing right now, or you're in your practice room sort of like noodling along and being unconfident that you're really getting better or working on the right things to learn the music the way that you need to. So my goal with this is to give you like, do this, learn this aspect of it, learn this aspect of it, learn this aspect of it, put it together, and you're good to go. So the first most important aspect of learning any piece of music is the rhythm. Rhythm is so important, especially when you're going to be playing with a group or playing with other people, because if your rhythm isn't precise, then nothing is right about it. You can play the most beautiful, expressive phrase, you can play with the most beautiful sound, you can nail every single note perfectly in tune, but if the rhythm's wrong, then it's going to sound completely wrong and throw off the entire group. So that's why rhythm is so important, to really know what the counts are, know when to play, how long to play, all of that important stuff. You can see I have a whole playlist on videos about rhythm. It's something that I talk about a lot, and I have a lot of different videos and tips and thoughts on how to count rhythms properly and get really good at them. So you can check that out, and just know that like rhythm is the first step. So whenever you're in your practice room and you're looking at a new piece of music, make sure that you're really confident with counting all of the rhythms in the whole piece and knowing exactly when and how long to play every single note. Next up, probably equally as important as rhythm, but very close. I would say maybe like rhythm is here and this is here. And the second thing is the sound quality. I put sound quality ever so slightly below rhythm because even if you're playing with a bad sound, if you're doing it at the right time, you'll likely blend in with the group and it won't be too awful. But it is really important. Sound quality is the thing that everybody can hear. If you're playing an unaccompanied piece, only the people who know the piece will know that you're playing the wrong rhythms, but everybody will know if you're playing with a bad sound quality. However, on the other hand, sound quality is pretty subjective, and if you like it, then that's good. You need to be listening to your sound and going for your very best sound quality all of the time, but some people may hate the way you sound, some people may love the way you sound. That's just the subjectivity of it, whereas rhythm is not subjective at all. It's either on time and the right length, or it's not. So sound quality is really important because everybody can hear it right away, but maybe not quite as important as rhythm. Now, in the actual practice room, sound quality may come up in a lot of different ways. It may be you find yourself squeaking on a particular note. You may find that it's really bad transition between a certain interval from note to note. You may find that just a certain range of the instrument doesn't sound good, or when you play loud, it doesn't sound good, or when you play soft, it doesn't sound good. So that can come up in a lot of different ways. The best way actually to work on sound quality though is in your warm-ups. Doing the long tones, doing scales, that's when you can put 100% of your focus on the sound quality and really figure out how to get the sound that you want on all of the dynamics and all of the notes of the instrument. Though it is important to think about sound quality when you're actually working on a piece of music, and in your practice you can do a lot of thinking about sound quality, in the performance you only want to be thinking about making beautiful music. It really can be distracting if you're not confident about your embouchure, or you're like, oh, I know I'm going to squeak on that note when I get there. If you're thinking that in a performance, then that's a bad time. You want to be saving your concentration in a performance to think about like getting the notes and rhythms really solid and conveying the music that you want. That's the most important thing to be thinking about in a performance. So sound quality, super, super important. Definitely think about it a lot when you're practicing, but hopefully you're doing really good warm-ups and really getting the fundamentals of the instrument down so that you don't have to worry about the sound quality when you're performing especially. All right, next up is the thing that everybody seems to focus on first, and that's the actual notes. It completely makes sense why people focus on the notes first, and to some extent it is really important to know where your fingers are going before you know when they're going there with the rhythm. But I think it's really important to know that the rhythm is right first, because if you happen to play a wrong note, but you play it on time, then it just makes a more interesting harmony in the music. Sometimes those more interesting harmonies sound worse than others, and often people will hear that you played a wrong note. But if you're playing completely at the wrong time, then everything about that's wrong. It's the wrong harmony in the wrong place. So like rhythm is still the first thing to really get, but then the notes are also super important. Notes are also pretty easy to think about in your practicing. Most of the time people will notice when they play wrong notes, but I would just encourage you when you're at like this point in the checklist, you're like, okay, I know the rhythms are good. I think my sound quality is pretty good. I'm liking how I sound on all of the notes. Then when you get to the notes part, just like take a second to double check your key signature, make sure that you're playing whatever accidentals are in the key signature in all of the octaves, check for any other accidentals, especially check for accidentals that might be carrying through the measure. Another great way to double check the notes is just to listen to it a lot. This actually works pretty well for the rhythm if you have a good recording that has really good rhythm as well, is to listen to the recording a lot, really get in your ear how it sounds, and then you'll know right away if you're playing a wrong note or not. And the final thing on the checklist to think about is the style. The style is sort of all of the musical decisions that you have to make. It includes the tempo, how fast you're gonna go, the dynamics and the phrasing, like where do you want each phrase to go, and the articulations to make sure that you're really doing all the articulations that are written and making decisions about how you wanna articulate the notes that don't have any markings and all of that kind of fun stuff. These are the things that really make things sound musical and really will bring the piece to life and make it sound like a real performance rather than just like a robot playing the notes and rhythms. But it is sort of the least important because, again, in a performance with a group, almost nobody will notice if you aren't tonguing or if you are tonguing where it should be slurred and missing the articulation. Almost nobody will notice if you're playing the wrong dynamics or not quite getting as much contrast as everybody else. And it's also really, really easy to sort of follow those things when you're playing with other people. Articulation takes some close listening to really match that, but dynamically it's pretty easy. Like if somebody's playing loud around you, you're most likely gonna play loud to follow them. If everybody else is playing soft, you're most likely gonna play soft. The trick is when you have independent dynamics and everybody else is playing soft, but you should be playing loud, that might be something important to catch and to think about. So that's why style is still very, very important to be thinking about and going over and working through and making a plan in your practicing. It's just slightly less important than rhythm or the other things that we've talked about. So if it sounds like this would be something that would be helpful for you to sort of have on your music stand or in your practice space as a reminder of the things to be focusing on, then go to www.quickstartclarinet.com/practice checklist, and you can download a little handout that I have of these things so that you can have like rhythm and know exactly what you should be thinking about with the rhythm as you're practicing and going down through the checklist. So you'll never feel stuck thinking like, this piece is like, okay, I think I have it more or less down, but I'm not really sure what I need to think about next. Like just follow the checklist, make sure everything's solid on that, and you'll be good to go. I do also want to add that this is a really sort of formulaic way to think about it, and I think sometimes that can be really helpful to sort of like have a process, have like the step-by-step as you're getting started with things. But once you're really comfortable with understanding all of these things and working your way through it, you can make it a little bit more of an organic process where you sort of incorporate all of the parts of it at one time. I also really, really highly recommend doing this on a small chunk of the music at a time, maybe even just 4 measures at a time going through the checklist rather than the whole piece. You don't need to know like how the rhythm goes perfectly in every single bar of the piece before you start thinking about the notes or the sound quality or the dynamics at all. It's really important to sort of be incorporating it all together as quickly as you can, and that's why working in small chunks is so perfect. It can take like 2 minutes to get down the rhythm for 4 measures, another 2 minutes to get the notes. Hopefully you did your warm-up so your sound quality is going well, and then another 2 minutes to get the style, 4 minutes to sort of run through it all, get it all working simultaneously and connected together. And then in 10 minutes, you've figured out how everything should go for 4 measures. Then you do that for the next 4 measures, and so on and so forth, so that you're really getting it all down sort of together, rather than only thinking about rhythm and then only thinking about notes, because that can be really tricky and take a long time to work it all together. The trick is, of course, that our brain gets good at doing whatever it's doing. So if you play a whole piece of music only thinking about the rhythm, but you're playing wrong notes, ignoring the dynamics and not doing any of the articulations, then your brain's gonna start to think that that's how it goes. So you wanna do it in small chunks, but this checklist will be there to sort of help you to think about, oh, I actually don't really know how to count the rhythm in this measure. And that's why I sort of put it together in this hierarchical way, put it together in this order. So you're like, rhythm has to be good. You don't want to skip the rhythm and do exactly the same thing where you're always playing the wrong rhythm while you're playing the right notes. You have to sort of get it down in that order, and then you'll be good to go to put it all together. So I hope you find that a little bit interesting. I hope you sort of are challenged to think about the order that you think about things in, and always, always, always make sure that your rhythm is great and your sound quality is great. That's really important too, but rhythm most important first and foremost. And if you want the handout to actually print out and have this visual reminder of all of the details of the music that you need to be getting down, then go to www.quickstartclarinet.com/practice checklist to download that, and always have that in your practice space. So when you find yourself being stuck and you're like, I don't know what I need to do to make this better, just go through that. If the rhythm's good, the sound quality's good, the notes are good, and the style's all good, if that's all coming together, then you're good to go. You can play the piece, you know how it goes, and you're ready to perform it. But if any of those pieces aren't there, then dive into it, practice it more, work on it in small chunks, and really learn it. Taking the time to learn all of those aspects of the music really pays off when you're feeling really super comfortable in the performance, because you know how it's supposed to go. So thank you so much for watching this. Thank you so much for liking the video. If you found this helpful, downloading the handout, I hope that's really helpful for you as well. And of course, subscribing to the channel so that you can see all of the future tips and tricks that I put out for you to help along with your clarinet journey. So thanks again for watching. I look forward to seeing you in another video.